Start recording. Stop recording. Button.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? I hope everyone's having themselves a gorgeous, beautiful, magnificent day. So, this is my final video on low vision shelter survival, living in a shelter with barely any vision. And this is basically gonna be like the last month of events. So, as I said before, this place was crazy, man. There was people dancing on the table, people trying to rob me, and I'm almost blind, right? So, after what happened in my last video, I get a message from my buddy, the guy who actually drove me in. And he's like, hey, man. He's like, I got some lemon haze for you to try. Weed. He goes, are you interested? Like, it's free, man. Like, I just want to help you out. You're living in the shelter right now, and you could use some pot. So, he drives into the shelter, and we walk off property, because there's cameras everywhere. And he gives me my weed. And I'm just kind of hanging out in my room in the shelter. It's air conditioned, which was lovely. And, you know, I'm watching Trailer Park Boys. Nighttime comes around, and I decide to go to Sobeys. I was getting, like, Ensure, like, Boost. And, you know, I had a bit of money, so I get my Boost. And I'm outside of the Sobeys, sort of underneath a camera, where I thought I would be safe. So, I'm under the camera, and I'm smoking a little bit of weed, right? It's probably 9:30 at night. It's pitch black dark out. And all of a sudden, two people who I know, I think they're homeless, or they were homeless, but regardless, I knew this guy for probably 2 years at the time. And he walks up to me. He's like, yo, man, what's up? I was like, nothing much, just chilling. You know, just smoking a bit of weed. And I gave him a hit. And I offered his girlfriend a hit. And she didn't smoke, I guess. But, like, as I'm offering his girlfriend the weed, I hear like a crinkle, and I hear a zip, like a zipper being closed. I was like, okay, he's got a fanny pack on. He's probably just grabbing a smoke or something. And he kind of starts walking away, and I was like, hey, man, you got my number? And he's like, what is it? And I'm reading my number to him, and he's like agreeing. He's like, every 3 digits, he's like, yeah. And all of a sudden, he's gone, right? Like, they walk away. And something in the back of my head said, you just got robbed. Like, I heard the zipper. I didn't speak up because I didn't think this guy would ever rob me. Don't assume that. Assume your best friend's gonna rob you. But I look, and I'm negative $50. He had enough compassion to leave me a $10 bill. Which, screw you. Yeah, this guy that I knew for 2 years, was friends with for 2 years, decided to rob me. Now, this guy was a junkie. He probably still is, so he probably wanted the money for drugs. But regardless, I'm the type of person where if you come up to me and you're like, man, I'm really sick, can I borrow $20? Yes, I will probably give you $20 if I have weed and smokes on me. You know, I have the necessities, as you wish. So, this guy robbed me. I have a bit of an anger issue when people are doing me wrong. So, I'm like screaming at the top of my lungs. Screaming. I was like, come back here. Like I said, I'm almost blind. So, literally, he could have been right beside me, basically, and I wouldn't see him. So I'm screaming. I'm like, get back here and fight me. I'm not a very big guy. I'm not very intimidating whatsoever. But I'm losing it. And I can literally hear people yelling at me, and I'm getting angry at them too. But I admitted defeat, and I walked back to the shelter. We had a curfew, right? I think it was 10 o'clock. Yeah. So that happened. Excuse me. And then about 4 days before leaving the shelter, I made friends with this guy who I called Tyrone. And Tyrone was pretty chill. You know, he had mild schizophrenia, but he was a really cool guy, chill for the most part. And I just got my money in, and he didn't, right? So we go to the little convenience store. I bought a pack of Next Reds. I give him a couple. And I give this guy, I think he has like mild autism, but he's a cool guy, and he's a panhandler, right? He's got a gambling addiction. So I bought him a ticket. I bought him a couple tickets, and he was very appreciative of it. Like, at least he's not lying why he needs the money. I was like, what do you need the money for, Gary? He's like, food. I said, Gary, what do you need the money for? He's like, for a scratch ticket. So I bought him his tickets, and I gave him a smoke or two. And I'm outside of the shelter, like we're having a smoke. And all of a sudden, Tyrone takes off. Like, out of nowhere, because that's what he did. And Tyrone was gone. And he comes back, and he's like, hey man, this guy's selling Mario. If you're not smart enough to pick up what I'm putting down, you probably shouldn't be on this channel. So, you know, we purchase this fungus, and we go get a couple Dr. Peppers. And we're hanging out at this park, and I eat the mushrooms. He eats the mushrooms. Everybody's having a good old time. Mushrooms are basically legal in Canada right now. Like, nobody cares about mushrooms, which they shouldn't, because, you know, as long as you're not a kid, they're not that bad for you compared to basically any other drug except for weed. But don't ever do what I talk about on the Storytime channel. That's not the purpose of this video. So we ate them, and I'm playing like Lil Wayne or Eminem, I think it was. I'm playing some Eminem. We're chilling at this park, sort of talking, and this guy comes over who Tyrone knew, I think. At least knew his name. So this guy was talking to him, and he actually goes over and he buys Tyrone like half a pack of smokes. So I don't have to give him any smokes. I'm good. And we're just hanging out, sort of enjoying the view, walking around. I remember it was like extremely bright out. So everything was like super vivid. Colors were like popping at me. You know, the sidewalk sort of waving back and forth a little bit. And I ain't got no worries. You know, life is good. I'm here with a somewhat of a good friend, I think. You know, Tyrone, if you're watching this, man, shout out to you. Hope you're doing well. And we just kind of hung out. And a couple hours later, Tyrone leaves. Probably around an hour or two later. And I'm just hanging out in my room. I go upstairs, and I told them what I did, like the people that run the shelter. Because if I didn't, and they found out that I was on something, they may think it's something harder and call an ambulance, right? So I just told them what I talked, and they're fine with it. They're like, just stay in your room or go outside. Like, we don't want you hanging in the lobby. I was like, all right. So I did that. And, yeah. So, coming in to, like, the final day of me being in the shelter, right? I'm in my room and I'm kind of lonely, right? Like, I start to realize Tyrone's not really a good person. He's probably only hanging out with me for the free weed and smokes. So I brush him off. You know, he only hung out with me when it was convenient to him. So screw people like that. So I'm all alone, I'm bored. And I'm like, hey, I'm going to call my brother. You know, I haven't talked to my brother in a couple months. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, yeah, he's going to be pissed. Because I'm in a shelter when I didn't even think of it for some reason, but I could have just called him and he would have helped me. So I give him a call and he was pissed, rightfully so. He was pissed. He's like, what are you, effing stupid? He's like, you know, I got so many bedrooms in my house right now. And, you know, one of them's free. Like, I got a full basement. It's free. Like, there's nobody in it right now. Basically, it's like, kind of jokingly, but serious at the same time. He said, so, are you going to come live with me? Or am I going to have to come down there and drag your blind ass out? I said, well, option A sounds pretty good. And he's like, man, like, don't take this offensively, but he's like, man, you're some lucky you have neurofibromatosis. In my head, I'm thinking, yes, I'm lucky I have brain tumors. Yeah. But he's like, you're lucky you have neurofibromatosis because I can't hit you in the face right now. Joking around, obviously. But also partial serious. He's going to see this video, hopefully laugh. Yeah, I don't even know if I'm going to upload this because mushrooms are stigmatized a lot. But I see a lot of different people doing it, and to hell with it. I don't do any hard drugs. You know, I smoke weed occasionally. It was every day, but now it's occasionally. I drink from time to time, but I'm not a big fan of alcohol, honestly. And I do this other thing twice a year, so. Yeah, so now, excuse me, 9 months later, I'm living with him. Everything's going great. You know, I'm in a great spot. I got a roof over my head. I'm surrounded by people that love me, not fake-ass people who pretend they do. I had too much of that in my life. And basically right now, just kind of hanging out, taking my time, looking for a decent apartment. It's hard. There's like a housing crisis right now, and, you know, it's hard to find a decent, even one-bedroom apartment for less than $1,500, $1,800. And yeah, I can't think of anything else that went on really at the shelter. We all just kind of hung out, talked, smoked weed, whatever. But yeah, hope you all found this video entertaining. This is the last video of the series. I know at least 5 of you are watching. I wasn't going to continue to do this, but this is the last video. And like I said, don't judge me. I'm doing a bit of experimenting on the channel. Sort of trying to figure out what gets likes and what doesn't. And mushroom videos and weed videos are pretty popular nowadays. So, yeah. If you got a problem with anything I talked about on this channel, well, here's what you need to do. Okay? You need to come over, bend down on one knee, and kiss my blind ass. Have a gorgeous, beautiful, magnificent day, night, or evening. Peace and love.